welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 508 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, I'm going to ask you to agree with me. I'm going to ask you to hear me out. Let me first apologize for not having an episode last week. I'll just be honest with you. My mic crapped out. The mic cable, as you can probably see, is different. I had to buy a new mic cable, and that took a little longer than I thought it would. Shout out to Amazon. But, yeah. I had to buy a new mic, so I didn't have it. But I'm back, and I appreciate the people that asked, But we're here. Where I want to start this episode is acknowledging something. I want to acknowledge when I say that this is the golden age of sports. I'm not just talking about basketball. I'm not just talking about football. When you look at every single sport, I believe that this is the most talent we've seen in any sport. And I think somebody that embodies that more than anybody, not obviously everyone is great, but somebody that embodies that is Coco Gauff. And the fact that she is 21 years old and just won her second Grand Slam, winning the French Open this weekend, embodies what I mean when I say that this is the golden age of sports. You see, watching Coco Gauff win, and we're going to talk about Carlos Alcaraz in a second, but watching Coco Gauff win, one thing that I'm starting to see and one thing that I'm starting to hear is people not accepting what is and just living in the past. You know, obviously I see a lot of praise, and rightfully so, for Coco Gauff, but now you're hearing, oh, she's not better than X. She's not better than Y. Slow down on that. Like, okay. In life, things advance. It would be sort of interesting and sort of weird if something that you love stayed the same forever. Like, there's no elevation, there's no advancement. Coco Gauff is the advancement of tennis. That doesn't take away from what Serena Williams, Venus Williams, some of the great tennis players, that doesn't take away from what they've done. But when you look at how good and how graceful Coco Gauff is on the court, that's the growth of the game. I want to talk about what's her name? Arna Sabalenka. I'm sorry I messed your name up. I know I did. But I want to talk about her for a second because she is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to start off this episode with congratulating and heaping praise on Coco Gauff. I understand that Miss Sabalenka, Arnya Sabalenka. I know, again, I said your name wrong probably. Hey, I apologize. It wasn't my intent. But instead of essentially congratulating Coco Gauff for beating her, being the better person that day, she blamed everything else on why she lost. Not really saying, I lost because Coco Gauff was better this day. Like, no, she wasn't better than me. I just didn't play my best. That usually means that she was better than you, at least that day. I know that the lady is ranked number 1 and Coco's ranked number 2, but still. The fact of the matter is, and I don't want to make this about race, but the fact of the matter is, people have a tough time giving credit a lot of times. Not everyone and not all the time, but people struggle with giving credit where credit is due. they'll find every single avenue instead of the one that gives credit to the person that deserves the credit. Maybe it's a sign of weakness. Maybe it's a sign of failure. I don't know. But Coco Gauff was the best player at the French Open this year. And we know that because she hoisted the trophy at the end of the tournament. Coco Gauff has been on a run. And it's because of how great she is. I don't care if she's 21 years old. She is a staple now in the tennis world. And actually, to be completely honest, for a few years now, she's been that staple. And the beauty of that is we've seen her rise. We've seen when she'll lose first round. We've seen when she's lost and she just gets destroyed. Then she'll make it to the second round. Then she'll make it to the quarterfinals. You know, we've seen the growth, which is why it kind of feels like we've grown up or we've watched her grow up in this tennis world. I don't care what Miss Sabalenka said. Coco Gauff was the best player this year in the French Open, and that's why. I don't care what the conditions were, because that's another thing. She was talking about the conditions. She was talking about, it was poor. The court was poor. Well, Coco Gauff had to play on that court as well, and she was just that much better. I don't want it to be lost, the fact that when we're talking about this new age of sports, it's not just, I think people think I'm just talking about youth, which is not true. While, yes, youth is a part of it, I will say that, but that's not the only thing. You have to be talented. And Coco Gauff right now is arguably the most talented woman in tennis. It was tough for a lot of people to accept what we were watching when we saw Serena, when we saw Venus, and how they were just dominating at their height. So I wouldn't expect nothing less from Coco Gauff, who, might I add, again, won her second Grand Slam, and she's only 21 years old. I'm not going to put her on the same level as Serena and Venus because I want to see how her career plays out. But I am giving her flowers. Congratulations for winning this year's French Open, being the best player in the tournament, and essentially being the best tennis player in the world, at least on the women's side. Because, I mean, if your opponent is not going to give you credit, at least the world is. And that's what I do appreciate. People are supporting her in the way that she, needs to be supported, in the way that she should be praised. Shout out to Coco Gauff for being better than a lot of people. Actually, being the best. And congratulations for winning the French Open. Let's go over to the men's side. I think it's hard a lot of times to attract the casual fan. I think it's hard because the reason why you're a casual fan, a lot of people are casual fans, is because you're not fully committed to whatever you're watching. You don't really fully care about whatever you're watching. You want to support, but you don't really care. Because at the end of the day, there are more things on your plate that you feel or is more important, and you want to care about more. I kind of feel that way. I've been like that with a couple of sports. I know that I do this sports podcast thing, but I'm a casual fan when it comes to some things. Tennis is one of them. I've never really been the biggest tennis fan. I support people. Like, I support Lewis Williams. I support Coco Gauff. I support Roger Federer. I support people. I want to see success. But I'm a casual fan, meaning if it's on and there's nothing else on, I might put it on the background, but I'm never really going to pay attention unless it's somebody that I care about. What Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner did, I believe it was on Sunday, was on the same level of when Tiger would show up on Sundays with his red Nike button up. You knew you were in for greatness. You knew that what you were about to watch is probably better than anything that you could possibly imagine. I am not going to say was the greatest, but I will say that the Carlos Alcaraz Jannik Sinner match was one of the best matches I have ever watched. From storytelling to just greatness, it filled all the boxes. Congratulations to Carlos Alcaraz for beating Jannik Sinner in the French Open on the men's side. Mr. Alcaraz lost the first two sets. First one lost, 6-4. Second one lost 7-6. And then he proceeded to win the next three. This, I believe, was also the second longest game in French Open history. I think it was longer than 5 hours, a little over 5 hours. You know, when I watch some sports, I understand completely why I don't play that sport, why I probably never could play that sport. It kind of just jumps out the paper. It's no question. I know why. I would never do this. To play a game where you don't have a team aspect to it, it's just you versus somebody else, and you playing for 5+ hours lets me know that this sport wasn't meant for me. Now, again, it goes back to my first point. We talk about the golden age of sports. Someone like Coco Gauff, someone like Carlos Alcaraz, who is young as well. I think he's 22 years old. And for him to be down to lose the first two sets and then to essentially win the next three, but it wasn't like they were going back and forth. The last set, I think the second to last set took like an hour to two. Again, I don't watch tennis like that. I'll be real with you. I'm not here sugarcoating it. And it's also a testament the fact that this is, when we have the NBA Finals going on, this is the first two segments is tennis, because I have to give it up. That was the greatest tennis match I've ever watched. That was one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen from an individual person. And shout out to Jannik Sinner too, man. Jannik Sinner. He was actually pretty. He was the number one player going in. He beat Novak Djokovic. He was great. He just wasn't better than Carlos Alcaraz. Congratulations to youth, man. I think youth these days, and some of it is justified. Some of it I get. But youth these days, they don't really get a good rap a lot. There's a lot of negativity when people speak on the youth. And I think it's important to highlight when the youth is doing exponential things. Again, Carlos Alcaraz is 22 years old. Coco Gauff is 21. Carlos Alcaraz is one of, At 22, he's one of the most decorated tennis players we've ever seen. And he still has a lengthy, hopefully, career ahead of him. But he's already done things and he's already accomplished things that most people haven't or set their entire careers to get and still don't hit. Coco Gauff is 21, and she won her second Grand Slam. Do you understand that there are people that have played tennis their entire lives that don't even get one Grand Slam? So I want to be a positivity highlighter and highlight the fact that the two faces on the men and women's side of tennis is a 21 and a 22-year-old. Again, I understand that they're not number one ranked right now. Cool. But as we speak, they are on top of the world because they are the French Open winners. A 21. Their combined ages is 23 years old. 43 years old. Congratulations again to Carlos Alcaraz and Coco Gauff for winning this year's French Open on both the men and women's side. Let's go over to the NBA Finals. And we have 2 games under our belt. Now, again, I wish I would have been able to talk about game 1 when it happened, but the whole cable thing, it is what it is. We're here. And the reason why whenever I do a breakdown or let me say this, whenever I do a prediction, one thing that I usually say is I know what the Stars are going to do. I'm never really worried about the Stars. It's everyone else that is going to either win you a championship or win you a series or lose you a series. Because we know what the Stars have demonstrated why they're stars. The Stars have demonstrated why we look at them as cream of the crop, why we look at them as the best players. It's just who is going to step up? Who is that unknown player that's going to step up? Because it always happens in a series. That is usually who wins that series. I say it all the time. While, yes, the Stars are important, but it's always going to be the others. And I don't mean to disrespect anybody when I call you the others, but you're not the star. And I'll talk about game 1 for a little bit because I wasn't, Game 1 was the craziest game I've ever seen. And it's not because it was just greatness, but it's because everything that happened in that game was almost undescribable. On both the Pacers side and the Thunder side. For the Pacers, Tyrese Haliburton, your star, has a bad game. In fact, nobody really had a great game on the Pacers outside of maybe Nesmith or Nembhard. I'm sorry, inside of Nembhard. But on top of that, you have one of the worst first halves I've ever seen from a team in the NBA Finals. Like, it didn't. I'm not gonna go as far as Stephen A. Smith because I think he called it like an AAU team, but they just didn't. They looked shell shocked. They just didn't look prepared for the moment. Again, your star, Tyrese Haliburton, is just playing awful. You give up 24 turnovers. You commit 24 turnovers. You can't hit a three to save your life. And you're trailing for all of 0.3 seconds in the entire game. You're down by as much as 15 points in the fourth quarter. And you come back and win. Again, you led, I'll say this, you led for all of 0.3 seconds in the entire game. And on the Thunder side, again, you forced 24 turnovers. But with you forcing 24 turnovers, you only had 11 points off those turnovers, which is one reason why the Pacers were able to, even though you're up by 15, they were able to stay in the game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the most aggressive I've seen him. Like, he took 30 shots. He had 38 points, but he took 30 shots. The Thunder dominated damn near the entire game, and they didn't even have a great game, and they dominated the entire game. In fact, they dominated all of 0.3 seconds, and they lost game one. Lou Dort, 5 threes. Obi Toppin, 5 threes. Alex Caruso and Lou Dort look like the greatest defensive duo we've ever seen. And they lost. But you know what's funny? Even in that loss, I'm not going to say I lost confidence because I did pick the Thunder in 5, but I gained confidence in the Thunder. Because almost everything I thought was going to happen outside of the final outcome happened. There were also things, obviously, that I didn't think happened. I didn't think the Thunder would shoot under 30 or under 40% from the field. I didn't think, both teams were not really going to have a good – I didn't think that the Indiana Pacers were going to be down 15 points in the fourth quarter and come back and win. I didn't think Tyrese Haliburton was going to continue his run as one of the most clutchest playoff players you've ever seen. I think he has 5 go-to – pretty much shots to end the game or to go to overtime. He has 5 of them this playoffs. But that game one, I gained a lot more confidence in the Oklahoma City Thunder because they dominated the game and they didn't play well at all. And I'm like, okay, if they dominate this game, and yes, I understand they lost, but they dominated, and they didn't play their best. That should tell you, I'm not going to say that should tell you all you need to know, but that should show you, okay, so once they get it together, once they settle in, because again, these are 2 young teams, these are 2 small market teams, these are 2 teams that most of their players don't have finals experience. Once they settle down, it's going to be game over. Then we got to game 2. And game 2, the Thunder, how much did the Thunder win by? The Thunder won game 2 by almost 20 points. Shai Gilgeous had another 30-point game. And it kind of, and my first point showed more in game 2 when I talked about it's not just going to be the stars, because you know what the stars are going to do. Even though I'm going to talk about Tyrese Haliburton in a second, you know what the stars are going to do. The stars are going to be stars. You know, Shai averages over 30 points right now in the playoffs. It was Aaron Wiggins hitting 5 threes. And the thing is, J-Dub hasn't even really been playing well this series. He's had his moments, but he hasn't really had a good series yet. I know it's just 2 games, but game 1, he wasn't great. Game 2, he wasn't great. He was better in the second half, but he wasn't really that good. It was Alex Caruso having 20 points. It was Aaron Wiggins having 5 threes. Lou Dort didn't even play well offensively like that. It was Chet Holmgren. It's no disrespect at all to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, to the Indiana Pacers. Why I thought that the Oklahoma City Thunder was going to win in 5. And I still predict that. Because the Pacers are a good team. They deserve to be in the NBA Finals. They had a tough road, just like the Oklahoma City Thunder had a tough road. But it's about dependability. And I can depend. The Oklahoma City Thunder have more people, in my opinion, that you have to worry about scoring the ball, defense. They're a better team than the Pacers. And I think that was showed in game 1. It just the Pacers were able to overcome that. And it showed in game 2. That it just feels like we're talking about 2 teams that are in unfortunately, 2 different realms. Because when the Oklahoma City Thunder turned it on, it is, and we're talking about a team that lost by 40 points in this playoffs. But I just feel like they are far and above better than any other team in the league, at least this year. Because if you think about it, bro, Aaron Wiggins is fighting for time. He doesn't get he doesn't get consistent burn. And he had 5 threes. Alex Caruso is known mainly for his defense, and rightfully so. Alex Caruso is an incredible defender. He's one of the best on-ball defenders. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that the Thunder have probably 2 of the best on-ball defenders in basketball in Lou Dort and Alex Caruso. So when you think of Alex Caruso, the first thing you think about is usually his defense. The man had 20-plus points. Chet Holmgren is the 3rd option for this team, and he's hitting threes. And then you also know what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's doing. You also have Isaiah Joe. You also have J-Dub. If he ever gets it together, it's curtains. Game 1 and Game 2, outside of the outcome of Game 1 and Game 2 went exactly how I thought it would go. The Oklahoma City Thunder are able to just overwhelm teams. And it felt like in Game 2, they overwhelmed the Pacers. And I don't have faith that the Pacers are I don't think that there's any change that the Pacers can make that can alter what the Thunder have to do. And that's another thing. Another thing that I believe did not help the Thunder in Game 1 is they tried to – Thunder are a big team. They're a big team. When you play – Isaiah Hartenstein, when you play Chet Holmgren next to each other, they're a big team. And the Pacers aren't necessarily a big team, which is why they are so one of the reasons why they're so successful at track meets, because they're just boom, 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 boom. Like they have Miles Turner. I think the next tallest player is Pascal Siakam. And Pascal Siakam has the ability to beat most bigs because he's quick, he's offensively, So what they tried to do is they took Isaiah Hartenstein off the floor and put in Carson Wallace. Carson Wallace isn't a bad player, but there's a reason why the Pacers destroyed the Oklahoma City Thunder on the glass last game, which helped with their comeback and ultimately their win. You see, the Thunder went back to a big lineup, even though there were times where Isaiah Hartenstein was just like doing anything in game 2. You go back to your root. You go back to your nature. You go back to a big line and say, okay, we tried to adapt to them. It didn't really work. Let's see if they can adapt to us. And again, the final score in the game 2 was 123 to 107. And a lot of those 107 were garbage minutes. So again, this is no disrespect to the Indiana Pacers. But I just feel like when we talk about who has the advantage and why in this NBA Finals, most, if not all, of the advantages, in my opinion, go to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And obviously, we'll see how that travels. But we've seen it. We saw it in Denver. We saw it in Minnesota. We saw it in who did they play the first round? Memphis. Remember, they were down. I think now I understand that John Morant got hurt, but they were down like 30 in Memphis and came back and won that game. I want to let's talk about the Pacers for a second, because I feel like I've been kind of heaping a lot of hate on the Pacers. I think a lot of this, game 1 was solely a Pacers win because they didn't quit. They didn't quit, and they went on a stretch at the end of the game, which obviously ended with Tyrese Haliburton hitting the game, essentially the game-winning shot. They went on a 3 to 4 minute stretch where they could not miss. You know how they say that usually when a team is up big, they'll let go of the reins, and which allows a team to come back. The thing about the Thunder is they did not do that. They didn't let off the reins. It's just almost every single person from Nembhard, Nesmith, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, Tyrese Haliburton, every single person just unloaded the clip, and they just couldn't miss. Nembhard was breaking down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He hit 2. I don't remember their back-to-back, but he hit 2 mean step-back threes on Shai. Miles Turner hitting mid-range. Everyone hit at the time they needed to, and then and then Tyrese hit the shot. The one thing that I will give, and I said this before, the Pacers remind you, and they've reminded us all playoffs, that this is a 48-minute game. And even when it seems like you're out of it, you're not until the final buzzer. I don't think, even though Rick Carlisle is an incredible coach, I don't think he outcoached the Oklahoma City Thunder's coach. I just think the shots that were supposed to hit that weren't hitting all games started falling for everyone. And I do believe that final 4 or 5 minutes is the best that the Pacers can play. I don't think that defensively they were playing really well, and offensively they couldn't miss. I feel like that was the best that they could play. That was their peak. Not saying they can't get back to that, but what I'm saying is that stretch we saw the best of the Indiana Pacers. Game 2, we saw what we mainly saw the majority of game 1. They had a bunch of turnovers. They couldn't really hit. And a lot of that is due to the Oklahoma City Thunder defense. And they just look like a team that was playing a superior team. You know what this finals kind of reminds me of? These first two games. What was it? I guess the better one is when the Denver Nuggets played the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat had an incredible run to the finals. Rightfully so, deserved to be in the finals. But it just felt like there were just levels, right? And it felt like that Denver Nuggets team, and they showed it in the finals. I think they won 4-1. The Denver Nuggets were just on a different level than that Miami Heat team. The Miami Heat deserved to be there, and they had a great run, but they just did not match up at all well with the Denver Nuggets. And that kind of brings me to Haliburton. Because I started this off by saying, you know what your stars are going to do. The reason why I picked the Oklahoma City Thunder, not because Shea is the only great player, but because they just have a plethora of people that they can depend on. I understand Tyrese Haliburton's mindset. I understand Tyrese Haliburton's approach to the game. I understand that Tyrese Haliburton's approach to the game is usually the best path to success for this Pacers team. Tyrese Haliburton is not a score-first point guard. We know that. He doesn't really adapt that new age of guards. His first option, or his mindset is, let me feed everyone else. And I mean, he had a game this playoffs. Actually, it was against the Knicks, where he had a 30-point triple-double with 0 assists. 0 turnovers. I'm sorry. That's how good Tyrese Haliburton is. That he can have a 30-point game. And he can also have a 15-assist game with 0 turnovers. But I believe at least the first 2 games, Tyrese Haliburton's approach to the game is hurting the Pacers more than it's helping, at least in this series. Now, I know you're probably thinking, how the hell is that possible if he hit the game winner? Remember, Tyrese Haliburton before that game winner and in game 2 was having a tough stretch of it. Game 2, I think he scored 15 points in the fourth quarter or second half, but he was struggling. And the first game, he was struggling. A man that had a 30-point triple-double with no turnovers, had 5 turnovers going into the fourth quarter of game 2. There are times when you need to be more aggressive. I think that's people, whether right or not, people have had that or used to have that critique about LeBron James. There are times when LeBron James would look solely to pass more than score. And I know that's crazy when you're talking about someone that has the most points in NBA history, but that used to be LeBron James would always try to make the right play instead of go get his. And Tyrese Haliburton's approach to these games, in my opinion, has been a detriment. Now, I know it's easy for me to say that because the Oklahoma City Thunder tied up the series, even though I do think that they've been the better team for these two games. But if you're not going to be aggressive offensively, if you're not going to be aggressive trying to score the ball, the reason why Tyrese Haliburton was able to score like 15, 20 points, something like that, in the second half of game 2 isn't because he was getting different looks. It's because he was being more aggressive. You heard Richard Jefferson talk about it on the broadcast. You heard Jay Will talk about it. If he had that aggressive mindset, the first half of that game that he did in the second half, the game might look a little different. I don't know if they would have won or not, but it might look a little different. They're two completely different players, but Rick Carlisle said something that should also apply to or has also applied to how the Thunder look at the Pacers. Rick Carlisle, who obviously is the coach of the Pacers, was talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And he was saying Shai Gilgeous is a walking 30-point, walking bucket. There's nothing that we can do that is going to stop Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What our goal is, not allowing anybody else to go off. What our goal is, we can't allow Alex Caruso to have 20-plus points. We can't allow Aaron Wiggins to have 15 points from threes. Like, we can't allow that. There's nothing we can do about Shai Gilgeous getting 38. But if Shai Gilgeous gets 38 and Chet only gets 10 or Alex Caruso only gets 5, you've done your job and you put yourself in position to win the game. When I talk about Tyrese Haliburton, I know Tyrese Haliburton is trying to get everyone else, because that is essentially, and is tough, because that's essentially what has gotten the Pacers to the NBA Finals. Tyrese Haliburton setting up everyone else to eat. But what the Oklahoma City Thunder is doing is they're cutting off everyone else's water. And Tyrese Haliburton is the only one, honestly, on this team that can consistently go and get himself a bucket. No, he's not Steph. No, he's not Devin Booker. No, he's not Kyrie Irving. No, he's not Luka Doncic. But as we saw, he can get a bucket. And it's just, again, I don't know if that would have changed the outcome of game 2. But if he is more aggressive, that gives the Pacers a better shot, because the most aggressive person on the Pacers, it seems like right now, is Pascal Siakam, Obi Toppin, and Nembhard. And Pascal Siakam's already shown that he can't be that guy, the go-to guy. So I don't know. I don't think the Pacers have much of a chance in this series, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest. But they have a better chance if Tyrese Haliburton is more aggressive. And that kind of brings me to my next topic. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of hate having this superstar conversation. And I also want to point out the fact that we have the superstar conversation more and more these days, because going back to my original point of this entire show, this is the golden age of sports, and we're seeing just the sheer number of talent. We haven't seen this much talent in sports ever. So that whole superstar conversation gets brought up a lot, especially when we talk about the NBA. Another reason why, one of the main reasons actually I hate this conversation is because I feel that people talk in absolutes a lot, and people think in absolutes a lot. Meaning, if I say that one person is not a superstar, I believe they hear me say, "Oh, that person sucks," or "That person's just terrible," and that's not the case. I think that there are levels. There are talent levels. And you can be very good and not be a superstar in my eyes. I've talked about this before and I've defined it before, but before I continue, let me give you my definition of a superstar. Again, my definition. If my definition is different than yours, it doesn't mean that mine's wrong. It doesn't mean that yours is wrong. It just means that we have different definitions. We look at something differently. My definition of a superstar is you know what you're going to get from that person night out, night in. And at their best can lead you to a championship. Their best can put you in the best position to compete for a championship. That, in my opinion, is the pure definition of a superstar. Now, I also hate this conversation because I feel like we pass the word superstar around a lot. Like, I don't think there's as many, as much as we have this conversation, I don't think that there's as many superstars in the league as we really think, in my opinion. Like, I'll give you all the superstars that I think. Steph, LeBron, KD, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka. Do I put him in the superstar category? I would. Shea. And I think that's it for right now. Now, that brings on the key point of this topic, and that is Tyrese Haliburton. People are saying, seeing as though he's having a historic run in this playoffs, people are asking and people are saying that he is a superstar. People are saying that Tyrese Haliburton is in that level, or questioning, is he at that level? I think that there is a difference between a star and a superstar, and I think the difference is consistency. I need to see more consistency from a couple, because I think that stars and superstars, their talent gap isn't that far, but their consistency kind of is. Meaning, I think that the consistency. Now, yes, I still think that KD, Steph, and LeBron are superstars, but that's kind of, that's kind of they've been that their entire career. But the consistency from Anthony Edwards needs to be better. The consistency from a Jalen Brunson needs to be better. And they need to prove that they can make it to at least the finals. The consistency from a John Morant, the consistency from, I'll say, a Donovan Mitchell needs to be better. I think that all of those players are stars, including Tyrese Haliburton. I think that he is a star. I think that Tyrese Haliburton has a talent that is very hard to duplicate. But when we talk about someone like Tyrese Haliburton, when we talk about someone like Anthony Edwards, when we talk about someone like Donovan Mitchell, when we talk about someone like John Morant, they need to be more consistent. When you look at, because I know I said at least make it to a championship, and I said Tyrese Haliburton. When you look at these first two games, Tyrese Haliburton has not been good. He's had his moment. He had his moment, but he has not been good. Tyrese Haliburton has been mediocre at best in these playoffs. In these finals. Again, I know it's 2 games, and I will see what he looks like at home. But he's been mediocre at best. When you look how different, and I'm not just saying talent-wise, but look how different when we talk about approach and aggression, Tyrese Haliburton looks compared to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Again, I know they're 2 completely different players, and they kind of dictate, or they kind of have a different impact on the game, but just look at the aggression that Shai Gilgeous has compared to Tyrese Haliburton. Again, I think Tyrese Haliburton is great. And I know people are going to say, well, what about someone like Joel Embiid? I didn't say his name. What about someone like Kawhi Leonard? I think that availability is a very important part, too, in the fact that neither one of them have consistently been healthy is not you kind of take yourself at the superstar rank. Because they have the talent. Joel Embiid, he won not Super Bowl. He won an MVP. He has the talent to be a superstar, but it's just he has playoff flameouts and he's constantly hurt. Kawhi Leonard, he's constantly hurt. Paul George, constantly hurt. No, I do not think Tyrese Haliburton is a superstar yet. I think he has the talent to be. So for those people that said he was the most underrated or most overrated, I don't know what the hell y'all were thinking about, but he has the talent to be a superstar. I don't think he has the consistency to be a superstar. And when I look at Tyrese Haliburton, even though the Pacers have built the perfect team around him, I think that his approach, at least to these NBA Finals, has been a detriment to his team. And a lot of that is due to how the Oklahoma City Thunder has played him. But you have to, as a star, you have to know, okay, they're playing me to be more aggressive offensively. Give them what they want. Make them have to adjust. The thing that I didn't like about the Thunder game 1 is the Pacers didn't make them adjust. They just adjusted. Oh, okay, they don't have size. We're going to adjust to their pace. So we're going to take out Isaiah Hartenstein and put in Carson Wallace, who's a good player. But the Pacers never made them adjust. In fact, the game 2 was like, you know what? Let's go back to what we do. And, yeah. I think make the Oklahoma City Thunder adjust to you. Like, oh shoot, he has a 40-point game. Hold on, we gotta do something. And you won. Oh yeah, we gotta do something. I don't think. I think as credible as Tyrese is, I think as incredible as Anthony Edwards is, I wouldn't call them a superstar yet. And I would call Shai a superstar because this is like this maybe 4th or 5th year where he's one of them. He's one of them. 2nd year in a row that the Oklahoma City Thunder were the number 1 seed in the West going into the playoffs. And I wholeheartedly think that this is going to be the first year where the organization wins their first championship. And a lot of that is because they have him. So I think that all those players, again, Tyrese, and I think that they have a chance to be superstars. It just needs to see more consistency. So. Lastly, before we go, I didn't talk about this when it happened because the whole mic thing, but I did a clip. About this. I was able to record my audio from my phone, but Aaron Rodgers finally signs a contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It took pretty much all the offseason and the start of OTAs, but, Aaron Rodgers is here. And in that reel that I did, I essentially said that not much has changed perception-wise with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't get me wrong. I will never, ever disrespect Aaron Rodgers in saying that Mason Rudolph is in the same realm as Aaron Rodgers. Even this iteration of Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph never. Let's be FFR. But I broke it down, man. I said, okay, well, you have Aaron Rodgers, and I'm just going off of the last iteration we saw of Aaron Rodgers wasn't the Packers, it was the Jets. And while, yes, you can blame the offensive line, you can blame some of the I get it. The offensive line was terrible. But the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have that much better of an offensive line than the Jets did. Yeah, it should be better, but it's not that much better. I was saying, when I look at this Pittsburgh Steelers team now with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think it makes them tremendously better. Because again, while yes, with Mason Rudolph, they had the fourth best quarterback option in the NFC or AFC North. With Aaron Rodgers, now they have the third best because you don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns right now. But he's nowhere close to the same level as Lamar Jackson, and he's nowhere close, at least at this iteration, of a Joe Burrow. The Steelers do not have the same weapons as a Ravens, because, remember the Ravens got DeAndre Hopkins, they have Rashad Bateman, they have Zay Flowers, they have Derrick Henry, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. You got the two, pretty much the best Batman Robin wide receiver core in Cincinnati with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. My thing is this, and I understand that there wasn't a lot of moves that could have been made. When you look at the free agent market, when you look at the quarterbacks that were actually available, there wasn't much that could have been done. But I look at it like this. At this moment, I don't know how much better Aaron Rodgers makes your team compared to someone like a Russell Wilson who you just had. Now, yes, I do think that Aaron Rodgers at this point is better than Justin Fields, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers is that much of a difference than Russell Wilson. And my issue is you waited as long as you did to get Aaron Rodgers when there could have been moves to make. I don't think Aaron Rodgers really makes them a championship caliber team. And when you hold out as long as they held out for Aaron Rodgers, I would hope that this team or that player makes them a championship caliber team. And I don't see that for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because on top of that, we still don't know what's going to go on with TJ Watt because he still doesn't have a contract. Or let me say this. He's still in a contract dispute with the team. So this looks like yet another year where they may have a good regular season. They may beat a Ravens team. They may beat a Cincinnati Bengals team once. You may look up and this is yet another year where Mike Tomlin doesn't finish below 500. But this is yet another year where they're not really title contenders. Again, we talk about Mike Tomlin's record. What is his playoff record? And I love Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin is an incredible coach. But the facts are the facts. The record is the record. I don't think the Steelers are going on like 8 years or something like that since winning a playoff game. And it's not the fact that I'm not upset that they got Aaron Rodgers. I'm saying you waited this long. You let Aaron Rodgers play with you this long, pause, and you're marginally better? You're not like exponentially better? I would understand if this was like Lamar Jackson. I would understand if this was someone like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. This is Aaron Rodgers, 40-plus-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who just, you're only as good as what you just last put on tape, and he wasn't great. In fact, the Jets won more games with Zach Wilson than they did with Aaron Rodgers. And that is the guy that you held out as long as you did for. Again, congratulations to them, but I don't think they're that much better. So, that's the end of the show. June is a big month for a lot of reasons. June is apparently Pride Month, and I may not be a part of that community, but I do think it's important for everyone to feel seen, everyone to feel love, everyone to feel warm, everyone to feel safe. And for this to be a month where a lot of people from that community, most people from that community can feel that way, I'm all for it. I support people being able to make their own decisions about their own lives. I don't feel I should have a say-so in anybody else's life, And again, I don't have to be part of a community to support somebody living the life that they want to live, living their best life, living the life that makes them the most happy. June is also Men's Mental Health Month. I understand that there has been a stigma when it comes to therapy. And I also understand that it's not the cool thing to do, especially for a man, an African-American man, because that's the only perspective I have. But when you hear someone like John Brinkus, who was the face of sports science for years, when you hear he passes away because he lost his battle to depression, and when you sit and really think about just how many men are depressed out here and don't feel like they have anyone to talk to, not because they don't have anyone surrounding them, but because they don't feel like they'll be heard. I would never tell anyone to do anything that they don't want to do or that they don't feel comfortable in doing. But I do think that therapy is a great option. Because whether you hear it first from me, even if you don't believe it, at least if you hear it, the world is a better place with you in it. On top of that, the world is a better place with you feeling 100%, feeling like yourself, feeling loved. I know that it's not a popular thing to say, men are loved because, men are supposed to be, a lot of the stigma is men are supposed to be hard, tough, rigid. They're supposed to be the financial providers and nothing else. I understand that it weighs on you. Shit, I'm a man. Life can weigh heavily on you. And I know for me, the thing that has helped me has been therapy. I haven't done it as consistently as I should. That I'm not going to lie about. But I do know that it is important to hear that you are important and that you your presence makes this earth better. Rest in peace to John Brinkus. And I also wanted to say that because I know that he's not the only one. He's not the only one that suffered from depression. He's not the only one that lost their battle to it. The thing is, you don't hear about it a lot because it's not the popular thing to talk about. But yeah, it is men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I just, for every man that is here listening that hasn't heard it, you are important. Your presence here is important. You are valuable, not just financially. You are valuable. Until next time, much love.